Good evening. Welcome to South Asia Newsline. I'm Yeshi Johnson. Here are the top stories we are tracking for you on Thursday, the 26th of May. India's Jammu and Kashmir sees upsurge in violence tense after separatists sentenced to life in prison. Ousted former Pakistan PM Imran Khan gives 6-day ultimatum to government to announce fresh polls. And student unions protest as Nepal raises retail fuel price, stoking inflation fears. And now for all the details. India's Jammu and Kashmir territory has seen an upsurge in violence this week as security forces neutralised 6 terrorists in the past 24 hours, while terrorists shot dead a female TV performer and a police officer, officials said on Thursday. This came following the conviction of the region's best-known separatist Yasin Malik in a terror funding case. Malik was sentenced to life in prison on Wednesday.
Three terrorists were neutralised on Thursday in an encounter in Kupwara district of India's Jammu and Kashmir after security forces intercepted a group infiltrating from across the border. Police confirmed the slain terrorists were affiliated with Pakistan-based Lashkar-e-Taiba or LET outfit. The encounter came within 24 hours after 3 Pakistani terrorists of Jaish-e-Mohammed and a policeman were killed in a gunfight in Baramulla district, and the region's best-known separatist, Yasin Malik, was sentenced to life in prison by a court in New Delhi in a 2017 terror funding case. On Wednesday evening, Amreen Bhatt, a 35-year-old Kashmiri television and social media performer, was shot dead by LET terrorists outside her home in Budgam district. Her 10-year-old nephew also received a bullet injury on his arm.
उन्होंने कहा शूटिंग है इतना ही कहा उन्होंने उन लड़कों ने तो फिर से उन्होंने गोली मारी
आपको लगता है ये गलत हुआ
है ना गलत है ना क्या बिगाड़ा था इस मौसम ने इसका
On Tuesday, suspected terrorists also killed a policeman and injured his minor daughter outside their house in Srinagar district. More than a dozen people, mostly police, have been killed in Kashmir Valley this year. One of the dead was a Kashmiri Hindu government employee worrying the region's tiny minority community. Security forces have already stepped up their operations, neutralizing 78 terrorists this year. The upsurge in violence comes as the federal government is also planning Kashmir's biggest annual Hindu pilgrimage to the Amarnath Cave Shrine starting June 30. Up to 800,000 visitors are expected.
In news from Pakistan, ousted former Prime Minister and Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf chairman Imran Khan has given the incumbent government an ultimatum to announce elections within 6 days or have the entire nation return to the capital, Islamabad. Khan disbanded the protest march by supporters on Thursday following clashes with police outside the parliament on Wednesday evening.
Pakistan's ousted Prime Minister Imran Khan disbanded a protest march by supporters on Thursday after clashes with police outside the parliament the previous evening, but he warned that they would return unless an election was called within 6 days. Khan, chairman of PTI, Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf party, has said that the confidence vote that toppled him and ushered in the coalition government led by Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif last month was the result of a US conspiracy, and he's demanding a fresh election to show he has national support. He warned the government that he will march on the capital again if it did not meet his demands.
आपको मैं 6 दिन दे रहा हूं 6 दिन के अंदर आप इलेक्शन अनाउंस करें जून के महीने में इलेक्शन अनाउंस करें असेंबलीज डिसॉल्व करें अगर 6 दिन के बाद ये नहीं करेंगे आप तो मैं सारी अपनी कौम को लेके वापस इस्लामाबाद आऊंगा.
Meanwhile, the Supreme Court on Thursday dismissed a petition filed by the federal government seeking contempt proceedings against Imran Khan for violating the apex court's orders with regard to the party's Freedom March. The court had on Wednesday ordered the government and the PTI to constitute respective negotiating committees and meet at 10 p.m. to ensure peaceful and safe conduct of the party's long march to the capital. However, negotiations were not held as both sides claimed the other had not shown up. Taking to Twitter, Interior Minister Rana Sanaullah said Imran had misled the court by taking permission for holding the rally at a specific place in the capital, but later announcing it would be held at D Chowk. While Khan had entered Islamabad in the early hours of Thursday and marched towards D Chowk, the federal government authorized the deployment of the army in the red zone to protect important government buildings.
Pakistan's Finance Minister Miftah Ismail has said the government remains committed to reviving the $6 billion IMF program, while talks with the global money lender remained inconclusive this week. Meanwhile, Pakistan's Foreign Minister Bilawal Bhutto Zardari said the ongoing bailout deal is outdated as the country faces an unprecedented crisis in the changing global scenario.
Pakistan's Finance Minister Miftah Ismail on Thursday said that the government remains committed to reviving IMF, the International Monetary Fund program, after talks on the 7th review under the $6 billion funding program remained inconclusive. Ismail on Twitter said that the IMF team emphasized the importance of rolling back unfounded fuel and power subsidies, which were given by the previous PM Imran Khan's government and are costing the cash-strapped country billions as global oil prices rise. He said the government would need to have a tight monetary policy amid high inflation and a widening current account deficit. A removal of fuel subsidies would likely have political consequences for the country's new coalition government, with elections expected within 16 months. Meanwhile, Pakistan's Foreign Minister Bilawal Bhutto Zardari on the sidelines of the World Economic Forum in Davos on Wednesday said the ongoing IMF bailout deal is outdated given a number of global crises as the country struggles to implement targets set by the lender.
This deal is a pre-COVID deal, it is a pre-Afghanistan fallout deal, it is a pre-Ukrainian crisis deal, it is a pre-inflation deal, and it is unfair, unrealistic to expect a developing country like Pakistan to navigate these geopolitical issues, the impact on food security, on our water security, on our energy security, and inflation, as it is everywhere else in the world, with this outdated deal in place.
A pending tranche of over $900 million is contingent on a successful IMF review and would also unlock other multilateral and bilateral funding for Pakistan, whose foreign reserves have fallen to $10.5 billion, covering just 2 months' worth of imports.
In news from Nepal, Nepal's state-owned oil company has hiked the retail prices for fuels including petrol and cooking gas by up to 12.5% because of rising global oil prices, following which student unions held a protest in Kathmandu demanding the withdrawal of the recent hike. Student unions affiliated with ruling as well as opposition parties in Nepal held a protest on Wednesday outside state-owned oil company Nepal Oil Corporation (NOC) against the recent hike in price of petroleum products in the country. The NOC on Sunday hiked the prices of petrol, diesel, kerosene, aviation fuel and cooking gas by 10 rupees per litre. The price of cooking gas was increased by nearly rupees 200 per cylinder. Protesters urged the government to review the high taxation on petroleum products, identify sources for renewable energy and promote its use, and rescind a monopoly in the import and supplies of petroleum products.
तेलको मूल्य बढ्नु भनेको चाहिँ एज अ स्टुडेन्ट अथवा एज अ कुनै प्रोफेसनल भन्दा पनि तेलको मूल्य बढ्दाखेरि हामी सबैलाई अझै एज अ मिडल क्लास फ्यामिलीमा बसेको हामीलाई तेलको मूल्य बढ्नु भनेको सबै प्रोडक्टको मूल्य बढ्नु हो र तेलको मूल्य बढ्दै गर्दा यो आजको कुरा मात्र होइन जब पनि दुनियाँमा कुनै समस्याहरू आइरहेको छ तब यो समस्यालाई बहाना बनाएर तेलको मूल्य आयल निगमले बढाउँदै आएको छ.
Despite the increase in fuel prices in the domestic market, the NOC has clarified that it will still face losses. In addition, it needs to pay 43 billion Nepali rupees to supplier Indian Oil Corporation by May. Only 20.60 billion has been cleared so far due to cash shortage. People of Nepal are facing a surge in food and energy prices as annual retail inflation accelerated to a 5-year high of 7.28% in the month through mid-April. The government has also banned luxury goods imports in the country and raised fuel prices several times this year to curb the capital flows. More news from Nepal. Home to Mount Everest, the world's tallest mountain, Nepal also boasts of having the planet's shortest living male teenager. Dor Bahadur Khapangi has been proclaimed as the world's shortest teenager living male and received the Guinness World Records holder certificate at a simple function from Nepal Tourism Board Chief Dhananjay Regmi in Kathmandu on Tuesday. Khapangi, who measured 73.43 centimeters, which is 2 feet 4.9 inches in March this year, was born on 14 November 2004 and studies in grade 1 in his village.
सहयोग त त्यो बाहिरबाट केही राहतहरु मिलोस् हैन उहाँलाई पढ्न शिक्षा कतैबाट मिलाइदियोस् भन्न चाहन्छ.
In news from Afghanistan. Since seizing power in Afghanistan last year, the Taliban authorities have imposed several policies and practices restricting the human rights and freedoms of Afghan women and girls. Recently, the Afghan women held a book fair in Kabul, encouraging people, especially the youngsters, to raise public awareness of reading and promote the culture of book reading among countrymen.
For the first time since the Taliban took over Afghanistan last August, a street book fair was held by several women in Kabul. The two-day book fair held recently displayed more than 1,000 books on different subjects including culture, literature, politics and economy.
مامزی ایجاد نمایشگاهی است که جوانای ما تشویق شوند و امی فرهنگ کتابخوانی ترویج بیافتیم که امی جوانای ما تشویق شوند و بیاین کتاب ببینن و بخرن. اما بیشتر از 300 جلد شاید ما به فروش رسانده باشیم.
Visitors at the book fair appreciated the initiative to raise public awareness of reading and also extended their support.
اگر ما فرهنگ مطالعه را، فرهنگ کتابخوانی را بالا ببریم، سطح خشونت و این و آن برچیده میشه، گلمش برچیده میشه.
However, this comes at a time when the Taliban has imposed severe restrictions on women and girls' rights. Earlier this month, the Taliban ordered women to cover their faces in public, a return to a signature policy of Islamist groups past hardline rule. They also asked television broadcasters to ensure that female presenters on local stations cover their faces when on air. Under the Taliban previous rule from 1996 to 2001, women had to cover, could not work, and girls were banned from school. But after seizing power in August last year, the Taliban said it would respect women's rights. However, in March, the Taliban backtracked on their announcement that high schools would open for girls, saying they would remain closed until a plan was drawn up in accordance with Islamic law for them to reopen.
Scores of Buddhist monks and nuns gathered in India's northern Ladakh territory this week to pray for world peace as they mark the Monlam Chenmo festival. The annual 5-day prayer event is held in the 3rd Tibetan Lunar month in the Himalayan region. Hundreds of Buddhist monks and nuns from different monasteries gathered in India's northern Ladakh territory on Wednesday to offer prayers to mark Monlam Chenmo, also known as the Great Prayer Festival. The monks and nuns chanted prayers and performed prayer rituals for world peace as the event was held after a 2-year hiatus due to COVID-19 pandemic. The annual 5-day event was established in Tibet in 1409 by Tsongkhapa, the founder of the Gelug tradition. It is held in the 3rd Tibetan Lunar month in Ladakh.
लद्दाख मुल्लम छिन्मो नामक वार्षिक पूजा हमारे कैलेंडर के अनुसार तीसरी मान के 21 से 25 तक 5 दिन का होता है, तो उसमें हमारे लद्दाख के पूरे लद्दाख हिस्से के लामा एकत्र होके पूरे चारों संप्रदाय का पूजा 5 दिन का करते हैं वर्ल्ड पीस के लिए.
The main purpose of Monlam Chenmo festival is to pray for the long life of the holy masters of all Buddhist traditions and for the survival and spread of the dharma or sacred teachings. Well, that's all we have for you from South Asia this evening. Now our viewers can watch the show on SouthAsiaNewsline.com. You can also visit us on Facebook.com/AsAsiaNewsline and follow us on Twitter @AsAsiaNewsline. That's all in tonight's edition. We will see you same time tomorrow. Good night.